Good evening and a very warm welcome to one and all present here. I, Neeraj Sharma, librarian GD Goenka Public School Gurugram, a proud member of SLA and moderator for today's session. On behalf of SLA, I feel privileged to welcome Ms. Madhu Bhargava, President SLA India and General Secretary SL Faisal sir. Topic of 16th PLC session is Build Stronger Engagement Through Books. How to create activities based on books to empower readers with skill of language, arts and expression. The session will be interactive and will include short activities so that librarians will get hands-on experience. To discuss in detail, we have Madam Richa Sethi and Madam Tarika Nalwa. Madam Richa Sethi is founder and CEO GetLitt and have 20 years of experience from working in startups and FMCG domains. GetLitt was founded on the principle of giving every child the possibility of discovering and creating stories. Madam Tarika Nalwa is currently the program lead at GetLitt. She rooted the idea that digital learning spaces can enable holistic growth in an engaging and interactive way. On behalf of SLA India, I welcome both of you, ma'am. Over to Richa, ma'am.
Thank you, Ms. Neeraj. It's a very exciting moment for GetLitt and all my team members here. And today's session has been, created exclusively for SLA based on our experience of how do we create, how do we, make books as the center of conversation. And we said, kind of how do we break this up for librarian teachers so that they can kind of use every book as a resource to create engagement, active conversations within their, sessions. So the today's agenda, we have kept it very simple. We'll give you a little brief review of what GetLitt is, how GetLitt can be used within your academic curriculum as well as at your in your libraries. The second part is going to be on how do we create active engagement through activities where books become the trigger. So the purpose, the process, the pedagogy that is being used, and how do you create very simple activities around it so that you are jointly able to achieve the goal that you have set out. And then we will get into active creation. We'll be breaking down every step, for easily for you to pick up those strands and do those things at your own end. So you will be actively creating those activities within this session. And then we'll take your queries and then we'll close the session. GetLitt has been in this space for more than a decade. Our purpose is completely based around how do we allow children access and ability to discover diverse children's literature, and how do you really upskill or provide children the means to be able to create stories and express themselves confidently in within this space. I'm going to give you a little glimpse of the platform before we move ahead. So we work with multiple publishers from across India and globally. And the library has been curated specifically keeping in mind that we really want teachers as well as parents to have access to a diverse, vibrant library, which is easily then able to kind of plug in into any of your goals that you have for the year. And it's a resource which makes your life little easy because we give you curated list of books on various topics. Plus, we support schools in terms of a reading program when they take up the enterprise access to GetLitt. So this is the wide range of books that we have. Books on, for example, if you look at the current new books which have been published, this is a book by Tulika on Srinivas Ramanujan, which is talks about the early story starting from the childhood of the scientist, which is not not much is known about Ramanujan. So he did not go through a proper structured schooling, but how his entire journey of self, discovery, and being really able to observe the patterns around him, led him to Cambridge, and finally he created some amazing discoveries, which are still the basis of, many of the scientific theories in the current world. So you can see the kind of strong visualization. This is a book, I and I, which uses the context of cancer. So this is a young girl whose mother has cancer, and she's troubled not because her mother is unwell, but about the fact that her mother is no more going to be looking like her. So that is what, when I was talking about the agency in the hand of children, where we're talking about that for her, the concern is that now her mother has cut her hair and now she's not going to look like her mother. So those critical, issues which children really face. Topics for different age groups. This is Girls to the Rescue. It's a book which has been written by Soumya Rajendran. She's a Bal Sahitya Academy award-winning author. This again takes a contemporary twist on our fairy tales, where now no more is the princess waiting to be rescued, but she's taking action in her own hand and taking the next step. Topics on sustainability. So we have amazing authors and publishers which talk about Narmada Bachao Andolan, which talk about Ganga and why is it so critical to our survival. So this is a wide range of literature that we bring to the, the classics, the stories in verses form, something which very well gets connected to the kind of, now the focus of the government is going to be on foundational literacy. Again, the platform is gamified, so children get access, individual access. They can participate in our monthly challenges, in reading Olympiad, part of virtual museum hunt. They can see their progression on their My Story page. So there's lots which can, kind of being created from the perspective of the child. So it keeps them engaged on the reading side. So this is a brief glimpse of what GetLitt provides, and because of the kind of wide range of work that we've been doing in this space of language arts and reading, we are able to tie a lot of pieces together. Now the second part, so this is a little glimpse about GetLitt, and there's multiple programs that we run with schools and librarians to kind of help them integrate it within their curriculum. Today's session, Tarika and I'm joined by my colleague Shivalika also. They both are going to kind of use books at the center of this discussion and help you, kind of really see how you can create activities and conversations around books. So I'm going to hand it over to Tarika, and then of course Shivalika will take over. Yeah, over to you, Tarika.
Thank you so much, Richa. Hi, everybody. My name's Tarika. Like Richa just mentioned, I will be taking you through a bit of the initial idea and how we kind of came up with the basis for this pedagogy that we've created to engage the students with books in a way that actually goes beyond the book as well. And then, like Richa just introduced, Shivalika will take you through a specific example, and then you guys will have some time to practice as well. So before anything, since we're thinking of activities and we're talking about activities, I would love for all of you to maybe put this in the chat box, just writing down what your favorite childhood game was or board game was, and maybe a sentence why it was your favorite as well. So you guys can go ahead and take a minute to do this. I'm curious to see all the different games that come up. Chess, very nice. Snakes and ladders, yeah. Ludo, I think that's still a favorite from many. Monopoly, nice. Checkers also. If anyone wants to unmute as well and share why they thought it was their favorite or why it was your favorite as a child, we'd love to hear a couple of ideas. Carom is another one. Nice, I like that, Nina. So chess helps move your thoughts, focuses, you very well. I think I don't have the focus to play chess maybe and think in the way that you have to think maybe 2-3 steps ahead. I think for me, the big favorite was Monopoly as a kid. And I think that was something that my family decided, like we would play together. I think there was a lot of tension that would come out of it, but a lot of good experiences around that as well. Okay, so thank you for sharing for those who did. I would say keep these games in mind because the idea is to create activities, and the idea for this session is to create those activities that do last with the students so that they're able to connect the book with these activities and then take it on beyond that as well. So like I mentioned, I'll just be giving you a little bit of a starting understanding. To start off, just the why of this session. Why is this session an important space, or why is it important for us to do this? So I think when we were creating this, we understood that a library is a place where students are able to read, they're able to explore a lot of different books, a lot of different genres, they're kind of grasped into these different worlds, and they're able to read, they're able to research and explore within this. So our focus today is actually to take that one step further, and the idea of creating activities around the books is to really help support our readers to connect to the books and to connect to the stories they're reading, and then almost like create something out of it as well. So just engage them further on top of the book that they're reading so that they create that long-term association for themselves. And then I think that also gives them a sense of ownership of the reading that they're doing too. So just starting off with our pedagogy. So when we were creating our GetLitt reading program, we basically borrowed from a bunch of different practices that we knew were very well known pedagogies, and we put them together in a way that really helped instill this idea of creating a really child-centered as well as an engaged plan, or a plan that has these activities that go alongside with them. So a couple of things were collaborative learning from Vygotsky, really looking at that zone of proximal development where they're able to really scaffold the understanding. Bloom's taxonomy of learning, so really trying to hit that hierarchy where they're using those the information to recall, but then towards getting towards that point where they're actually creating something, so it really sticks with them. Integrative learning comes in a way where we're really trying to take the ideas that we have and integrate them into our daily lives and create those connections to what a child kind of deals with and works with in a day-to-day basis. And the way that we did that was mainly through social emotional learning. And then finally, we have all of this kind of embedded in these really important 21st century skills such as creativity, critical thinking, and reflective practices. So this is kind of an overview of how we came up with our pedagogy. When we were thinking of creation of activities, it was simple for us to kind of break it into two elements. One would be kind of these generic activities that really create awareness around general events that we have. So this could be something where you're reading for a theme or themed weeks. It could be a reading challenge per se. It could be that there's a specific national holiday or an international celebration that you have and you want to use a book to really connect to that, or even a school celebration, something like, I think 100 Days of School is a really great one. And so there are lots of books around that as well. So this is kind of the more general, broad-based type of activities that can be created around this. Today, our focus was based on our pedagogy. How have we created activities that really hone in on four main strands? So the first strand would be reading comprehension. The second is vocabulary. The third is social emotional learning. And the fourth is using active reading strategies. And the fourth one is really for the younger kids who are grade 1 to 5, where they're learning how to read. So putting and engaging those reading strategies in. So in this, basically our activities can focus on one book or one author, but they could also really have very specific learning outcomes that the child will be able to understand. So like I said, our four strands: social emotional learning, active reading strategies, comprehension, and vocabulary. When we're looking at reading comprehension, this is basically really helping our kids understand and demonstrate that they understand what they're reading. So it's that ability to actually answer about specific parts in the text, and the purpose is to really evaluate what they were able to kind of take out of the text. So reading comprehension basically becomes the what, like what are they reading, and are they able to condense that information and make it make sense to them as well. In terms of active reading strategies, these are basically the processes to help create these independent readers. So like I said, this is very specific to a younger age group where they're really learning how to read. And the idea is for these active reading strategies is to really help them facilitate their understanding or facilitate that reading comprehension. This is the how they are reading so that they get to that point of understanding. And the purpose is to help foster that comprehension. So a few active reading strategies could be making predictions about the story, visualizing, trying to come up with pictures in your mind, identifying certain elements in the story, or even questioning and coming up with answers to those who, what, where, when, why questions. We then have vocabulary. So when we were creating, again, our pedagogy, what we really understood was that the vocabulary really plays a fundamental role in the reading process, and it's really important for that reading comprehension to be able to understand. So those kids are enabling their comprehension, by being able to understand the words that are on the page. So this is one element or one strand that we have broken up into 3 parts. It could be theme-based, so specific to a theme. It could be sight words, which are very grade-specific words that a child should know, or it could be very much text-based. So these are specific words that are in the book that are going to help enable the comprehension or understanding for that story itself. And finally, the social emotional learning element. So this is basically helping our kids really acquire, like I said, those ideas, those skills that are really going to take it one step further, where they're able to develop that strong identity for themselves. They're able to learn how to manage their own feelings, manage how they interact and deal with other students, as well as maintaining those relationships and coming up with certain decisions or that choice-making element and making sure that that's considerate as well. So when we're thinking of this strand, we almost think of this as the soul of our program. This is the heart of what we're doing, and it's the underlying kind of driving force that helps these children integrate and assimilate these learnings with the world that's around them as well. So these are the 4 strands that we basically come up with our pedagogy, and our idea is to take these strands and really create engaging and interesting activities around that. And so I'm going to hand it over to Shivalika, and she's going to take you through the next steps of how we would create an activity around this.
Thank you so much, Tarika. Hello everyone, I am Shivalika. I'm a faculty with GetLitt, and I have also been closely associated with creating a few of these activities. So this topic is really close to my heart, and I will just walk you through taking forward with the steps. So till now, Tarika has been speaking about the foundation strands that we have. But then what do I do once I know that these are the resources available to me? What do I do with these resources? How do I create an engaging activity?
Shivalika, your voice is cracking a little bit.
Is it the same for everyone?
It's better.
Yes, quite
Okay,
good.
it could be, okay, so earphones, okay. Okay, so I was just mentioning that now we know, we have a broad understanding of, okay, these are the strands which are available to us. What do I do with this information? How do I take it forward, and how do I create activities using them? So there will be a lot of moving pieces, yes, and even we felt it when we were creating these activities. But what we have tried to do is create 3 very simple steps that can help you plan your activities well, and also will give you an idea of how do we execute it later. So my first step is, I need to know what is my objective. Now when I'm talking about the objective, I am thinking about what are my students going to learn from this activity. Then I move forward to how is this going to be useful for them. My Second step is thinking about what are the outcomes. My outcomes are actually an extension of my objective. And this is basically how do I want my students to express what they are working on. And then the third step is what are my prerequisites? If I want my students to do certain things or to create something out of this activity, do they have all the information in terms of do they have all the knowledge required? So, do they have the understanding of the story? Do they have the understanding of the words if I'm using a different kind of vocabulary? So, I break it down to them. And then what are the resources they require? Do they have access to the book? Have they read the book? Do they need a worksheet for it? Do they need a space? Do I need to create a space, or they can work on their own? Those kind of questions I need to think beforehand. And of course, using all these questions, I create my instructions, and I also need to be very specific about the timing. Now, we have been talking about the strands, we've been talking about the steps. I thought it would be easy and fun to talk about a very simple story that probably all of us have read. And I remember Richa was mentioning about the moral. Like when we were learning, all our stories revolved around a moral. There was like one learning. But I think our realization had been that even through one of these simple stories, there is a lot that we can teach our kids. So this is a story wherein there are two main very strong characters, and they are very different from each other. Their strengths and weaknesses and their behavior, their action, their responses are very, very different. So now I will take the strands that Tarika mentioned, and I will also speak a little bit about the process in terms of how can I think about the activity. So if I'm talking about this story, I know these are the 4 strands available to me. I am thinking they already know the model. I have explained it to, like, they are able to read it. I'm also thinking about the comprehension. They understand the story. And I've also taught them the vocabulary. Now I want to talk to them about the soul, and I'm going to talk about social emotional learning. I want to talk to them about this. I want them to learn this. So now I know out of social emotional learning, these are the components available to them. I will, for this example, I will start with talking about self-awareness. Now, self-awareness is more related to understanding their emotions, analyzing their emotions, having integrity, and also leading or reacting with a sense of purpose, or leading a life with a sense of purpose, or approaching something with the same thing. Now I can start and take the example of the hair, wherein I know that he was oblivious to the negative traits. He was allowing pride to take over his actions, his behavior, his reactions. I can take that as an example, and I can think of an activity wherein I can talk to my kids about the awareness around our negative traits, or I can talk about the other character as well. But my focus here, when I was thinking, I think this was a difficult question. This is something that we generally don't talk about. So this could be something new, something that they can learn and evaluate about themselves. Now, if I move ahead, I have already thought about self-awareness. I can even talk about self-management. When I'm talking about self-management is more about whatever you have learned in self-awareness. How do I manage it? How do I manage my time? How do I set my goals and anything around that? Here I was thinking about both the characters. I'm thinking about the hair, wherein I've already spoken about the negative trait. Now I am also thinking about the tortoise, which was aware of his strengths, and he was also aware of the weaknesses, and then he managed the situation really well. So he did not allow his weakness, that he's walking slowly, to in the situation. He did not allow it. He focused on his strength. He knew that this is my plan, and he decided to just stick to it, and he went ahead with that. I will move ahead to another component in the same strand, and I'm talking about responsible decision making. So, responsible decision making is just keeping an open mind about certain situations, reflecting on your actions, and also making choices which promote well being. I think this is very closely related to the the component that I was talking earlier in terms of self-management. So here, the tortoise, it started slowly, but it did not exert himself. He had a plan, probably had a plan for himself, and played to his strengths. Wherein the tortoise, he ran really fast, and also he was full of pride and took decisions which were not to his advantage. They were definitely not promoting the well-being part of it. So using these ideas, now I can create any one activity around it. One caution that I think we have also learned after executing so many activities is always just try to stick to one strand and one component. Create different activities for different components. It's really, for us, sometimes it's very easy to, we just assume that, okay, this is simple, this is easy. But if we are trying to build that understanding, that connect with this story, and we want the kids to remember it even later, it's best to break it down. And these are very fun activities, small activities. So and also they can do it on their own, so they will have a lot of work time to work on it later as well. So this was just the planning part of it. How do I at the when I'm thinking about the activities, how do I think about certain things? I will also walk you through how do you create strong engagement activities. For that, I am going to pick a different book. This is from the GetLitt platform. And this is, like Tarika was mentioning, we are a little focused on the books today. So I am going to pick the book first. So this is my first step. Before I start writing something down or before I start creating, I focus on my book. This is my book. This is my story. So this is a story about frantic Fakhruddin, who was not a problem solver. He would worry even at the smallest of problems, while everyone around him would help him to find solutions to it. Until one day, when his Amma asked him to find a solution for himself. The situation in their home was that their fridge had broken down and the family did not have enough money to buy a new one. So they found ways to manage without it. So the mother said, "Okay, I will keep the leftover cooked food in the neighbor's fridge." The father said, "Okay, I'll get fresh fruits and vegetables." So they were okay managing without it, but Fakru wanted cold water, and he could not find a solution to it. So he went out to find a solution, but after looking at a lot of options, he realized that none of them were budget friendly, and he was posed with a riddle by a dadima who he met on this journey, and he found a solution to get cold water for himself. I am not going to get into the solution part of the story. This is a fun story. If you are interested, you can go ahead and read it. So now I know that this is my focus book, this is my story. I also know that these are my 4 foundation strands that I'm going to focus on. I have already, since I've already spoken about social emotional learning, even for this story, I'm going to pick social emotional learning. Out of this, all the components that I have here, I need to pick one. So I am going to talk about self-awareness. As I've already mentioned, I'm talking about understanding, identifying, analyzing our own emotions, and then leading a life with a purpose or having awareness around it at least to start with. So then how do I create an activity with it? My strand is social emotional learning. My component within that strand is self-awareness. Now, my step 1 is, what is my objective? My objective is, 1, what are my students going to learn and how is it going to be helpful for them? So this is what I am thinking. My objective is that my students will be able to connect with Fakhru's example. They will be able to connect to the main character in the story. And how is this useful? Even if they connect to the main character, what are they going to learn out of it? Or how is this useful? So what they will be able to do is they will also be able to identify people in their life who help them find solutions. So they will have a strong connect with the story, but also will be able to use that information for something that they also face in their lives. Now, my second step is, what is the outcome? When I say what is the outcome, I know that this is how I want my students to show what they have learned or what they are thinking. So for my outcome, I know that I want this. The one thing is that I want them to reflect And I also want them to write down about their own experience. So they connect to Fakhru's example, they reflect on their own examples, and they express them. And how do I want them to express them? They're expressing in writing. And then I also want them to list down people in their life that they trust. So if I'm thinking about people who are helping them find solutions, this is their safe circle. These are the people who they can trust. If they can trust them with finding examples and they're supportive, these are the list of people that they will be able to trust in their life. Now about the prerequisite resources or instructions and timings. This is how my final activity will look like. This activity is a little more focused on, is a little more discussion oriented. So I know I'm going to create a space wherein I will start with the discussion, wherein I speak to my kids in terms of we all face big and small problems in our life. Sometimes we are able to find solutions to those problems ourselves, but there are times wherein we go to others we trust to help us find solutions to these problems. Now, this is the discussion part of it. I know that for the prerequisite, I know they've understood the story, I know that they have access to the text, they are also able to understand Fakhru's example. So this is where I open the dialogue with them. One thing that I have felt always works in around questions like these are if you share your personal examples. So then that's when the kids feel that yes, it is a safe space. If my teacher, my faculty, my ma'am is sharing something, then I am also they will also feel safe to share things. And then the second part is what do I actually want them to work on? Is I want them to think and share which was the last time that they were really worried about Fakhru, and when they had faced any problem. It could be a small problem, it could be a big problem, and who were the people who helped them find the solution. And if they are comfortable, what was the problem, what was the solution provided. For questions like these, we will keep it, we will allow the students to, um, to take that call, how much do they want to share. But then our idea is if as a faculty we have an understanding of, okay, they are reflecting and you understand it, it's fine to stop there. If they want to go ahead and share, that's also fine. And then when they have the list of people they trust, you can also ask them to display it somewhere. So they can put it in their, hang that list somewhere so that they know, they can look at it time and again and just understand that, okay, I live in a safe environment and these are the people around me who I really, really trust. So this was the activity around one of the strands. There could be many activities that come out of a similar strand and on the same component. It will depend a little bit on the story, little bit on the group that you are working with. You're just starting off, you will keep it the rigor a little low, and then you can build on the rigor later on as well. All right, so that's all from my side. Now I will pause here and open it for questions. I think you can put your questions in the chat box or also unmute yourself and ask us if there is anything that you wish to ask now.
So we are assuming that everybody has really understood all the strands and what we have taken out an example, because the next step is an example which we are going to ask the teachers to participate. So please feel free to ask questions. We really want this to be an interactive session. Okay. Anuradha has a question: how we can use these activities in offline mode? So actually, Anuradha, these are activities which can be used in offline mode, because in your library period or when you are having a dedicated period around literacy, and there's a book which is as part of your discussion. So the whole idea is you've picked up a book and you've decided that this is the element or the specific topic on which you want children to think deeper. So that's why we started with a very simple story of Hare and the Tortoise, which every one of us have heard from our in our childhood. And even there, you have multiple topics that you can talk about and discuss and go deeper into. So this can easily be done in the offline or online space.
And just to add to what Richa is saying, we don't have to break down the whole thing and explain it to the students. So with the students, you're only talking about, hey, this happened with Fakru. Have you ever been worried about something, and just open and have an open dialogue with them. And if you can do it in smaller circles so that at the same time there is a discussion going on, and you can facilitate those discussions, and it's not going to take a lot of time. And then for the list part of it, when they're writing it, they're working independently.
What I do for this middle school, like grade 6, like the lesson structure of 40 minutes is like 10 minutes per mini lesson. So all the students, they all know they have to get their pens, and everybody, comes and sits on the center carpet and the, sofas around. That's our storytelling session, or teaching, a reading strategy for 10 minutes. So that's where, I pick up this kind of a story, and then whatever I want them to do, after that, I disperse them to different tables. So I have got like permanently made placards of, say, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I use them. So we place them on the tables, whatever groups we want, then we send them there. And we have these kind of activity sheets that you have explained here, reflection or the question and all. So it happens so smoothly. Like yesterday we have had with grade 10, this kind of a session. I was teaching them communication, how to communicate effectively, grade 10. And, it went off so well. The activity was focused around how does a close auction happens. Like this is one activity based on a, like lower levels of thinking, but that was on higher levels of thinking. It works very well if you, like 10 minutes, you tell your students, beginning of the session of your library class, or, 10 minutes, everybody gets together and you be the storyteller, whether you have the book or you don't have the book, or you read Fakhruddin's story or any other story from GetLitt or any other source, and then start with it, and children get hooked to you. Then say, okay, now what do you think? Okay, we get into groups, go and think, and then you come back. It works very well, even with very senior students.
That's
absolutely.
Yeah, Tarika.
Sorry, and I think that's a great example that you've given, Ms. Madhu, as well. I think for us, when we're thinking of these activities, they're again supposed to be a jumping off point. So the idea is that you, what Shibalika's just showed you with the SEL strand, or the social emotional learning, you could actually kind of plug and play for the other 3 different strands that we have as well. So something to do with reading comprehension, and just like you had mentioned, that could incorporate like a mini lesson at the start where you're giving them that prior knowledge of an element or an aspect of the story that you really want them to understand, and then taking it from there. And I think with that, you also think of the outcome. So how exactly are they going to be showing you that they know what they're doing? And so that becomes the second step, where the activity becomes important. Where are you asking them to discuss this? So they're just having a discussion, talking through what they want, similar to what we have seen over here. Are they writing out a response to get them really self-reflecting, as well as writing about it? Are they drawing something or making something, creating something? So that becomes almost the next step in this, is that outcome, and how do you really want them to create this as well.
Tarika, we have another question. So anything which can be completed in 10 or 15 minutes time.
Sorry, go for it, Shivalika.
Okay, so I was just thinking about the same activity wherein you can start the discussion in the class and you can drive it. And then for the writing and expression part, it could be they do it by themselves. So you don't have to sit with them for the full time. Just break it down. Yeah, go ahead, Tarika. You were saying something.
Similar idea, I was going to say. I think it really depends on how you are going to structure out the session, but I think it is something where you can look at plugging and playing certain ideas or elements and putting them in the session, and then taking the rest of it and asking them to do it themselves if they're able to, and if they're able to approach it that way. Any other questions?
Yeah, Faisal sir, about collaboration with other teachers, particularly with language teachers. I'm not sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm
Can
not
you
sure.
for the question?
Elaborate a little bit.
Please.
So, Faisal, we are not able to hear you. Could
You are not okay.
Yes. So basically, I got a fair idea about the theoretical concepts and the working of how an activity can be created. Okay, it's a wonderful inputs that you have given all of you, all three people together. Okay. Anyway, I feel that in some schools, basically in government sector schools, you can find out librarians are having a lot of other activities, including these sessions. Okay, we try to include these small sessions in during library periods, but anyway, a lot of constraints are there. Okay, and number of students that's above 50 plus, a lot of constraints are there in government sector schools, basically in KVs and Navodayas, in other schools also. So I feel that we can add some elements of collaboration with language teachers, particularly those who are so much interested in English language and learning, teaching and learning. Okay, so we can include some elements as like we can invite them for a session inside the library. That happens everywhere anyway. But there can be some solid ideas just how we can collaborate with these teachers, basically those who are so much interested in library activities. Okay, if any input regarding this that I would like to ask.
So, Faisal, you're right. The biggest stakeholder for children to read is going to be a language teacher.
Yes.
Because it directly impacts, their subject. Although the impact or the improvement in your reading skills, kind of affects all your other subjects also, like your social studies, and because you are going to be reading content and kind of writing your ideas on top of it. But immediate connect comes to language teachers, and somewhere there, I think the topics that they are also doing, or the so I think those can be supplemented, supported by in the library period.
Definitely.
And that is where they see the connection happening, and they see that what you're doing in the library period also kind of pushes their their goals forward. And the second part which you said, where you have large number of class sizes, there also I think some bit of operational part where you can, like even like Ms Madhu was saying, maybe you can break them into groups of 25 each, and maybe in one session you're dealing with first 25, and in the next session you in the next library period with the because for them also it is a very strong desire to be heard. And when you have books as a, like if you're saying 10 minutes of story and not 10 minutes of you writing down in teams and kind of discussing and writing something, and then you wanting to hear, I think it has always acted as a strong motivator for children.
Exactly. You said it rightly. You put it rightly anyway. Just like social and emotional learning part and many other things are there that we can include very effectively. We can include in when we are collaborating with subject teachers, including social science, whether it may be life skills, etc. Yeah.
I have a point here that both of you are discussing, Richa and Faisal. I have spoken with students exclusively. Like teachers get back to me to collaborate. Say, for example, grade 7 is reading The Giver by Lewis Laurie, and grade 8 is reading in their English language and literature lessons, and grade 8 is doing Boy in Striped Pajamas by John Boyd.
Yeah.
Now, the teacher get back to me that it will be great in your reading lessons if you take up these two. But do you know what do the students say? They don't want to be this an English lesson. They want to do something, though I'm doing it differently. So you can open a different kind of a window in case you want to collaborate. English teacher is doing her job, and there is no need to, do what she is doing. You could open a broader window if she's doing something, something, say, for example, another book by, Louis Laurie, not The Giver, or if you're doing Giver, do it from a different perspective. Then students will be interested in your class. Otherwise, this is an extension of English class.
Yeah,
I
that
feel
may be, yeah.
the reading has to be, open many windows to them, different kind of thoughts. Whereas English teacher opens only, these kind of vocabulary and connections, text to text connection. They're doing all this in their lessons. If you also do the same thing, children will lose interest.
Yeah, I would like to supplement that also. Yeah, because this during this 100 days reading program by CBSE, basically it's intended for teachers, but anyway, librarians are taking care of these things in many schools, particularly in government sector schools. So when you are asking the teachers that how they can collaborate, many English teachers, they are hesitant to collaborate with librarians in some cases because they are already overburdened with a lot of things. So just
What do you mean that it is the teacher's thinking,
yeah,
isn't
yeah,
it?
exactly.
So we don't have to go by their thinking. Even we are burdened. Then
Yes,
who is looking after
that's
that?
there, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, honestly, I like the very idea what Richa and this team,
Yeah.
and we should, work out on this. Not make our that's my personal thinking. I don't know how you people go in your different
Yes, ma'am.
disciplines.
I too agree with you, ma'am.
That you should have your own niche,
Yes.
Yeah,
your own niche, your own way of
yes,
putting
exactly.
across things.
So we have to customize in our own way, just like if you are
Yeah.
having more than 50 students or 60 students, so you have to just take part, just like you have divide into different sections. Okay,
Yeah,
just like
different.
that.
Yeah.
So anyway, I feel that there should be some customization depending on the local convenience and other things. Environment.
Yeah,
Exactly.
of course, yes.
Yes.
And
I think we can help each other. If anybody comes up with a good practice, we
Yeah.
can share. Yeah, see, this is how I manage such a large group of students. See, in one spot of time on Fridays, I get 60 students of same lesson. So beforehand, you need to plan like this, much prior to that, a week before you have to plan for this.
Yes.
yeah, that's true. That these
No,
are some
everything has to be very well planned. Only then it will be
Yeah, yeah,
successful.
definitely.
Yeah, especially because if you have very limited time, you have to prepare and then kind of get into the session so that time management at our end also. And I think to supplement, you're right, because a language teacher is always looking for the goal in terms of that, what are the patterns, what are the descriptions, and from that perspective. Whereas for us, we can actually take a very diverse view. Here, the goal for us is to use these books as triggers of conversation, where again, as Shivalika was saying, that when children feel that this is a safe space for them to express,
Yes,
there
yes.
are no do's and don'ts, and then this is something, a space which they will want to be part of, because this is a space which is not judging them, and they are being heard, and that we have found to be a very strong motivator for children to then now pick up books and then start reading, because then those books also give them words to express.
Yeah, much has been said here, but I would like to add one more point for all my fellow librarians, that think of whatever you want to do, an activity, it should yield into some creation, some product, some evidence that you have done it, and you must not lose it. Okay, they did it and like slips you collected and then you don't know it. Start collecting them into some format, make a kind of a what do they call it, scrapbook of one activity. It is a lot of work, indeed, I understand, and I know many of you are working single-handedly, but if you really want to show your work, publish your work, you have to do that. Otherwise, you do it and it is lost in the air. You do it and it's lost in the air. Nobody knows you are doing it unless you really give some shape to it from your end, make it a product, and leave it there for the people to view in your library.
Yeah.
I remember 2 years back, it was like 21st is again International Mother Language Day. So for 1 week, what we did, we have lots of children from Tamil, Telugu, and different kinds of languages. Punjabi, Hindi, Gujarati. We have a mix of students. So we gave them one theme for 1 week or perhaps 2 weeks. We kept on getting, poems, stories written by children, in their language, and then translation of it, both the things. We got them on papers. We cut the chart papers, colorful, those fluorescent papers. We gave a lot of work. We gave it to them. We made them write. Then we stuck them on the chart paper and we got them bound as a book. And that book is lying in on the front desk of our library. Everyone, whoever comes, for the love of languages, we designed, compiled by Madhu and Shakil, and it is signed by our head of academy and our principal. It's such a beautiful evidence that this was done on a certain, international day by our students with translation. I think you can do something of this kind. Whatever you do, think of an evidence. That's what I would like to add to what Richa and her team, they want to say that. And it is showing that it has, don't lose it.
Yes.
Collect everything. Collect everything what students have written, put them together and think of creative ways, maybe later. And then, show it to your management that this is what children are doing in library lessons. Thank you.
So I think let's move quickly to at least trying this out right now in the session. Yeah. So let's take at least 2 steps within the session.
Yeah, so we also thought that we could be in the shoes of the students and try this activity out. So, and like Fakru, I know even as adults, we're worried all the time. So I want all of you to think about a time when was the last time you were like extremely worried, like Fakru did, and what was the problem that you faced, and who were the people who helped you with that problem, and what was the solution provided. And like we have been talking about it, we wanted to be a safe space, and so there is no right and rule, there are no rules around it. So whatever comes to your mind, whatever was the problem, and how much ever do you want to share. Either you can type it in the chat box or unmute and share. Okay, I can also start us off. So I like I mentioned. Oh, sorry, we have responses. So I'll just pause here. I'll read the responses first. The laptop was not working, so I took the help of my neighbor. Okay. Online library class was a problem. The SLA helped. All right. So since we are all thinking about these problems, reflecting on it, learn and created activities using the online platform. Okay, Nina ma'am. I was not able to take print out. My colleague helped. Running short of topics for the library session. All right, the SLA team helped. Okay, thank you for your responses. The whole idea of this activity was actually for us to reflect that we also sometimes behave in the same manner, get worried about small things, and also to realize and understand that we do have people around us that we we can reach out to and who will help us. All right. Thank you so much for the responses. Tarika, handing it over to you.
Yeah, so I think what we'll do for the next maybe 2-3 minutes, we'd love to give you a bit of time and space to actually try this out with the SEL strand or social emotional learning strand. So what we are going to ask you to do, you all can see my screen, yes? Great. So what we're going to ask you to do is just start that process of creating an activity for yourself. So you can pick any storybook of your choice and base it on a grade level, if possible, grade 1 to 5. If not, it's absolutely fine as well. And then try and choose one component out of social emotional learning that we had shared with you. What we would love for you to do right now is actually create that objective that's going to be based on the component you created, just like Shivalika taught you. And similar to what Ms. Madhu was saying, is the next step of this would be the outcome. So how exactly, what's that evidence that they were able to complete this? If there's time, you can kind of work on that as well. So very simple task, choosing a book and then choosing a component from SEL. What I've done over here is shared the 5 different strands, as well as certain kind of skills that you would be focusing in on for each of the different strands. So you can maybe choose one of those and then try and create that objective out of it. So the idea would be you write the name of the book, figure out which SEL component, which one of those 5 elements or components are you using, and then what is the objective of your activity? What are you really trying to get your kids to do? So yeah, take 2 minutes to do 2 or 3 minutes to do this. See if you're able to kind of come up with something. And if you have any questions, we're here to help. And then we can move forward with this. Sorry, just one thing to keep in mind, just also think of Shivalika's example with the hare and the tortoise. There will be a lot of or multiple ways that you can actually connect to the book. So see which one makes the most sense to you in this point.
You can start putting it in the chat if you're ready, because this is just to kind of get you going.
Yeah.
And think of a book which you've recently read. What is that strand that you want to pick up, and what's the objective that you want to achieve? And if you think you want to go to the next step, outcome also, how do you want them to express it?
These are a few ways that you could look at expressing or pushing out that outcome. Thank you, Ms. Nina, for putting in your thought. We would try and think of now the next step being, what is that objective that you're trying to get out of the responsible decision making?
So those who have done the objective, they can also now think of the outcome. Then how do you want them to show or express this. So these are on the screen. These are few of the examples of how do you are going to achieve this objective. This will be your outcome then.
Okay, so Neena ma'am has shared the objective in terms of how the students can react in every situation wisely.
Okay, we have from Anuradha and Anita ma'am also.
Yeah.
Okay, so Anuradha ma'am's story is Crow and the Fox. Objective is self-awareness. Outcome is student take care of their self in every situation. Anuradha ma'am, you can break it down further using what we have shared on the screen. Make it a little bit more well-defined. Okay. Excellent. So Anita ma'am, your objective will become importance of books and reading, that they realize the importance of books and reading and how to use your time. And your outcome will be that how do you want them to, whether they want to, showcase it. Do they talk about it? You give them a prompt and they're going to talk about it. Okay, so we have from Sapna ma'am also, The Strange Umbrella by Enid Blyton. So the objective is responsible decision making. Okay, and the outcome is you want them to think and express about the reason of neighbors' not helpful behavior.
I feel that there is a confusion here. So when we're talking about the objective is the learning. So responsible decision making, self-awareness are the components from this strand. This is the planning part of it. Then I think about the objective, which is what my students are going to learn from it. And using that objective, I need to think about the outcome in terms of how do I want them to express it or share with me or showcase it. So a lot of the outcomes still are looking like objectives. So, and of course, the outcomes are the extension. So all I need to do is use one of these words whether do I want them to create a list? Do I want them to create a chart? Do I want them to just share verbally? Do I want them to just think about it and I don't want them to share it? So those kind of action that I expect from my students will be the outcome. Yes, they will definitely be related to the objective. Okay, I think we can.
Yeah, I think this is a lot of interesting and everybody has tried and attempted at least. Yeah, no, this is excellent. At least we hope that we've created a safe space for expression here.
So I think some of you have shared your ideas on the chat box. What I'm also going to be sharing with you is a Padlet board. And so Padlet, basically, you are we'd be happy to kind of take a look at these activities that you create. You can put in that objective, the outcomes, and maybe even a sheet or a worksheet if you're working with that as well. We're happy to take a look at that, give you feedback on it as well when you upload it onto the Padlet. So I've shared the link for the Padlet in the chat box. You can go ahead and click on that and upload as and when. We would request you, when you're creating this and publishing it, just put the subject in this order with your name, the book name, your school, and the grade that this would be for. That's also in the Padlet itself, so you should be able to see that. And yeah, if you have any questions related to Padlet and how it works, we're happy to take you through that post. We also, I'm gonna, give it to Richa to close this.
Yeah, there are two things before we wrap up. One is that we work, as I had mentioned earlier, that GetLitt works extensively with schools where we not just provide the digital library, but this is our integrated enterprise solution that we provide to schools. We are happy to discuss further with you because enterprise solutions are, kind of created in a very subsidized manner. So if you're taking the enterprise, you get for every child, you have access to the library, the entire reading and, the lesson plans for you to easily execute. You get author interactions, student analytics, and your children, you don't have to buy extra copies of books because you have parallel access being given to all your students for the books that you decide for each grade. So that's something that we provide, and it's at a very subsidized cost. A parent takes an annual subscription for 2,700 on GetLitt, whereas we have multiple options starting from 300 to 500 rupees per child for annual access, depending on the volumes, and we can kind of discuss that further. So when we, after this session, in fact, we would want feedback from you, whether this was a session which was useful for you. Do you think it's actionable? So we want feedback coming in from your side. And in case you want us to further discuss the enterprise solution with you, you can, in that feedback, write yes or no, and we'll connect with you. Tarika, if you can share the feedback. Yeah, we have the feedback form in the chat. It's important for us to get your feedback because we have created something thinking that maybe this is actionable and useful, and hopefully it will start a conversation at your end also. And any feedback from your side will allow us to improve it, whether it was something which was kind of you can understand, or do you think we need to further break it down for you. That feedback is going to be very critical for us.
So indeed a very highly informative and wonderful session. I extend my sincere gratitude to Richa ma'am and team GetLitt for this enlightening session. I thank President SLA Madhu Bhargava ma'am for always helping and enriching our professional skills. You are welcome to, and I also thank all the attendees of the session. You are welcome to present your familiar tools and techniques with the school librarians. Your suggestion and feedback always valuable for professional development. So I request all of you to fill the feedback form. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Ms. Neeraj. So I think that's it from our side. Taking out time on Saturday evening, all of you have come in. Again, looking forward to hearing from you and your feedback. As well as if you are able to create activities on Padlet, at least that will be your first step, stepping out of your comfort zone. And we would love to, kind of discuss with you how do you make it more, interesting and actionable within your, classroom. Yeah. So and I think that's it from our side. But thank you, SLA, for giving us this opportunity. It's always, as I said at the beginning, it's always interesting to engage with this team, which is closest to our heart. I think we all have one goal in mind. How do we get reading? How do we make reading exciting for children? So just delighted to be here.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the entire team of.
Thank you so much, Richa ma'am and the team.